Welcome back to
Are we
Faith
rolling?
and Frames. We're rolling.
We're rolling.
We're rolling.
I dig it.
We're back at Create Appalachia, our studio of choice in Johnson City.
In the back studio,
In the back studio. Party in the back's like a mullet.
as we've as we've dubbed it, which is true of this location too.
Yes.
They are business in the front,
Yes.
party in the back.
Yes. There's a very living room-esque foyer
Very very beautiful.
up front. It's like
We've recorded up there.
it's so much like the mullet. And then
Yeah.
the wide open vastness of like so many possibilities here in the back.
Yeah.
It's like a big party.
Especially once they finish building it out.
True.
More to come on that in the future.
Absolutely.
Link in description below.
Link in description. So
Welcome to Faith and Frames.
welcome. Hope you're enjoying your Monday. Actually,
Whatever day it is where you're listening.
whatever day it is, wherever you find yourself in life.
There it is.
In your car, maybe you're doing the chores at the house and you just got us in your earbuds, whatever.
And it's a Tuesday, not a Monday.
It might be. Club might be going up on a Tuesday. Who knows? We've got a guest,
We do.
and I'm excited to dive into some questions with him.
On the inner workings of his living.
Questions. There's a parallel there. Like questions and
I
questions.
see what you're
and-
doing now. I was slow to that one.
You got
I was
me.
slow.
You picking up what I'm laying down?
I am
It was
picking it up now.
subtle, as they say.
That was
I
very
really
subtle.
like to enunciate that B that's present.
Very subtle, and
B
I'm very
needs its,
slow, so
the B needs its stage and
I think I'm
subtle.
finally getting it now.
Listen, I got a dad joke for you.
Hit me.
How do trees access the internet?
I'm out of guesses today.
They log in.
That was pretty good.
I
like
mean,
that.
trees
It's all
log.
right.
It
I like
fits.
that.
It
Well,
fits.
we're hot off of an episode with Max, who's the woodman.
That's
so-
true. Last week was Mr. Wood himself,
Yeah, Mr. Wood, Mr. Goodwood,
living not.
Max Morris.
Let's bring our guest on, but first let's thank our sponsor.
Sponsor of today's episode.
Right.
None other than Animals West.
Yeah.
Greenville, Tennessee.
Yeah.
At Animals West, your pets are our passion.
Mm-hmm.
Our dedicated team offers personalized care, advanced treatments, and a warm, loving environment because at Animals West, every tale tells a story.
Yes.
Tony, Amanda, and the crew down on the Newport Highway.
Right.
Thank you for sponsoring this episode of Faith and Frames,
Taking care of these animals.
taking care of these animals. Jared and Garrett here at Motion Creative Media. Thank you, guys.
Still like to say every tale tells a tale. Like I just want to
You're all about those triple T's.
let's just tell it. You know
it's
what
a lot
I mean?
of tuss. A lot of tuss.
Absolutely.
Jared, meat and taters. Get us the meat and taters this
We'll go ahead and answer your burning question. I'm throwing questions out all over the place
I
because
hope
of
people aren't as slow as me. and I'm
of the
picking up on
guest
that.
here. Well, they're fixing to have their question answered because time's up. We're phoning a friend, right?
All right, Regis.
Ryan Buds.
Good morning, sir.
Hey, what's up, guys? Thanks so much for having me.
Are you? What was it? How was it you worded it off camera?
Oh,
Yeah, your official title.
My official title, Ryan Buds, somewhat professional trivia host.
I love it.
Nice trivia with Buds.
I can't wait till I get to the day that I can call myself somewhat professional in anything. So that's cool. That's cool.
Yes. Are we not somewhat professional camera dudes? We're not there yet.
No.
I don't think we are. I don't think we are. So a question that I think a lot of people are having. I'm going to hit that question thing hard. The whole episode.
We'll get a question, Dinger.
How did you end up with trivia with Buds? Like, were you just always obsessed with history? How did you land in this gig?
Yeah, I'm actually not a huge trivia guy. I'm not a very academic guy. I really like pop culture. So movies,
okay.
music, television,
Cool.
video games, comic books,
Right.
wrestling, stuff like that. But I kind of stumbled into this. I was doing stand-up comedy in Chicago in 2010.
Okay.
And
Chi-town.
yeah, grew up in Chicago and was working at a community college for 3 years after I graduated college. And I was like doing this stand-up thing, and it was kind of getting better and better. And I'm like, I think I can do this full time. So I
Right.
quit my job, and for about a year, I was doing comedy shows where I'd mostly work on the weekends, and I needed some income like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesdays.
Right.
Gotcha.
And a guy named Tony Valley with a company called Yes I Am Showbiz in Chicago. He had these shows called Stand Up Trivia.
Shout out,
And
Tony.
yeah, I don't think it's around anymore, but he used to have trivia hosts that were all comedians. He wanted it to be
Okay.
like a little bit funnier and a little bit more upbeat than a regular trivia night.
Well,
But
they've got
that's
good
cool. He
stage
gets to
presence,
supplement
too.
you guys, too.
Yeah. So it was really fun. And back in those days, I would just show up. I didn't even have to come up with the questions or run the questions or show them. I just had to read them and kind of joke around with the audience.
Yeah.
And so it was very low pressure. I think it paid $75 for 2
Nice.
hours. And I was like,
Rad.
this is great. Extra income. So I
Nice.
would work comedy clubs on the weekend and I would do trivia like Monday through Wednesday. And I started to like it so much. At that point, I had never even played like a
Yeah.
trivia night or a pub quiz anywhere. I didn't even know that was a thing.
Right.
And so this was at bars on the north side of Chicago.
Okay.
In the Edison Park neighborhood.
Very
Yep.
cool.
And it was a lot of fun. And I eventually got to the point where I'm like, hey, I lived on the south side of Chicago, south suburbs. So I said, would you mind if I started setting up some of these shows myself and kind of
Yep.
running them myself? And he goes, oh yeah, no problem. I'll give you everything you need to do it. So did that for about a year and then moved out to LA
Okay.
and lived in LA for 10 years. And when I was trying to get my feet below me out there, I just went to several bars and said, hey, I used to do this thing in Chicago.
There you
Can
go.
I maybe do it here? And when you set it up yourself, you would make, obviously twice as much money.
Right.
And I was like, okay. So I did that as much as I could. And when I was doing stand-up in LA and working on a bunch of different TV shows and movies and things, I always kind of kept trivia as a little side hustle. So I would
Very
do
cool.
it as many times as I could in a week.
Well, I mean,
And-
dang it, at $37.50 an hour, basically. That's
Yeah.
almost nurse money. That's pretty good to do comedy.
Yeah. And then, or then when you start setting it up yourself,
Yeah, when you do
75 an hour.
Yeah,
you
75
start
an
like,
hour.
oh, this is pretty
That's
good.
doctor money.
Yeah, and you're in control of it until only 2 hours. And,
Right.
and then I got a kick out of like coming up with the questions and
Right.
categories and prizes and all that stuff. And
Right.
that kind of just steamrolled into this business where I was like, oh, this is like a good chunk of my family's income
Yes.
as years went on. So in 2015, it was really starting to get big. And then by 17, I was able to, again, kind of quit my job working in TV production
Yeah.
and say, I think I'm going to do this full time. And so I've been doing that full time ever since. But
Very cool.
we have about 25 trivia locations in LA and in Northeast Tennessee now. And
So
I
you're
just-
still running stuff back home.
Yeah,
yeah,
you're
so
still
I have a
able to
lot of great local hosts there that kind of took over a lot of the things I started out there. There's certain places we've been out there for 7 or 8 years, every week
Wow, that's
without
awesome.
missing a beat. So that's really fun. And then moving to a new place like this,
Yep.
it's actually, I think it took a little bit longer to build it up here because you really have to kind of like convince people like,
Yeah.
no, this is like, this will be better, or this, hey, try this.
There's an education that has to take place.
Our
first.
Yeah.
area is a little bit slower at times. We're
yeah,
slow.
so it took me we've been here 3 years. It took
Slow-paced.
me a really good 18 months to kind of like get a reputation going
Right.
and like showing up and hanging out and
Get your name out there.
doing free stuff and,
Yeah.
and all that stuff. But now it's pretty smooth sailing, and we've got about 10 places on a weekly basis here. So it's a lot of fun.
That
Very
is
cool.
awesome. So that kind of makes sense. I was listening to you talk, and obviously you don't have a Southern accent, but I really truly could not pinpoint any sort of like, oh, he's from.
Yeah.
Because I think it's because you've been
Yeah.
all over.
Yeah,
So like you
been
don't
jumping
Two
around.
primary locations, and then this is your tertiary. I guess we could
Exactly.
say.
Yeah, I have the Chicago accent with the long A
Yep.
of like Chicago.
Yeah,
or
I did
ma,
hear that.
pop, garage,
It's mild though. It's
couch,
mild.
college. Those are the words people yell at me
Yep.
for the
Yeah.
most. But yeah, here I do find when I'm hanging out with people with Southern accents that
Right.
like I'll like when I'm really trying to emphasize something, it'll come out in me because
Through
I'm like
osmosis.
it's
Yeah.
like I want to be like them
Yeah.
or something.
We
to get my
bleed
point
through a
across.
little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You pick it up. You pick it up.
Definitely.
But so do you still do any comedy at all?
I have not done like a proper stand-up show since my son was born in 17 when I did
Okay.
the trivia full time. So
Nice.
yeah, that's crazy to me because it was such a big part of my life from
Right.
2006 to 17. So a good 11, 12 years where it was like every night doing something. Now I still do what I would call stand up a bit in terms of like crowd work at trivia
Yeah.
shows where
Yeah.
you're kind of like just making fun of stuff in the room and trying to, make everything lighthearted and fun and moving along. And the best
Right.
places to do that, shout out to Gypsy Circus in Kingsport.
Okay.
A lot of people know that place around here. It's
Yep.
just a very low ceiling, narrow kind of building.
Okay. Yeah.
So you can really kind of get, that's the place where I'm like
You're
scratching
immersed.
that itch. Yeah, you're
Yeah, you're
immersed and you're
immersed.
like, this would be a great room for a comedy show, really.
Right.
So you can kind of get the laughs that you're looking for there as like a comedian and a host,
This is cool psychology because in a previous life, I was in a metal band, and most of the venues you play in metal are small.
Sure.
You've got like the Hideaway here downtown, things like
right.
that. Small venues are so fun because you can get 30 to 50 people in there, 60 people sometimes, and you get so like
Immersed.
zone focused in that audience.
There's a chain of clubs in Chicagoland, and there's one in Nashville called Zanies. And Zanies in Chicago used to be like an old strip club or brothel in the Prohibition era. And so it's very narrow, small. It only holds like 100 people.
Right.
And like, that's, I could still hear like laughs echoing in that room. Like when I think of sets I've had there and stuff.
The acoustics and stuff, sure.
It's really like,
that's when you're having
perfect
fun.
Environment. Yeah.
That's when you're having fun as an artist.
There's nowhere for the laughs to go. They kind of stay like smoke in the room or something,
Well, I think it was smart on how you got your start. I forget the guy's name, but he wanted comedians to host.
Tony Valley.
That makes sense.
I send him like a thank you text every time I think of his name. I'm just like, hey, thanks, man, because like I never would have done this. It's not something I would have.
It completely makes sense for all the reasons you just mentioned, like the crowd work.
Yeah,
you've already got a stage presence. You're already able to read rooms, alter rooms, whatever. And truly just kind of encourage people. You sort of break down those barriers.
Yeah. And I always think when I go to other trivia nights, when they're really stuffy or the host is just reading the questions or the questions are super academic, I'm always like taken out of it. I'm like, this is just like school to me. But there happens to be beer. I want it to be like a party.
Right.
I want it to be like the fun stuff that like, to me, it's never fun to remember like 16th century British royalty. It's just not I'll never ask a question like that. But maybe one like in some kind of very random round. But it's way more fun to be like, what is Thor's home planet called? Like, because everybody saw those movies, in our modern age. So it's like, I really go for the fun stuff that I like. And I'm not a big sports guy, even though I'm from Chicago. So that is another complaint people will say.
Yeah, you said you're a Sox fan, which we won't hold that against you. My father-in-law's a Cubby.
Got my black shirt on. But yeah, there's people will be like, you don't do enough sports questions. But then like every time I will do those sports questions, the people that wanted them are never there.
Yeah.
It's always like the catch-22 of that.
Yeah.
Right.
And then everybody else goes, what's with these sports questions? We come because you don't do sports questions.
Yeah.
So it's
and you give us a fun experience.
Yeah.
And two, in our area, I think one thing that kind of transcends into like the trivia stuff with you being a comedian, like again, but we're in the South, we're a little bit slower to warm up sometimes especially when it comes to like public events. My big comparison that I always draw here is at weddings.
Yeah.
It takes a lot to get elderly Caucasian people to dance.
Yeah. Sure.
But if you have two things, you can do it. Number one is a little bit of booze.
Yeah.
Number two is the cha-cha slide.
Yep.
Seems to do it every single time. That's our
special
anthem.
ingredients. Yeah.
That's the special ingredients to get people to dance. So you are essentially the cha-cha slide of the trivia world.
Yeah. That's on my license plate
frame.
Cha-cha slide of the trivia world.
I love it.
It fits somehow, yeah.
If it's not, it should be.
Yeah.
That's a new one. I like that. I like that a lot.
I got a note for you guys. Have you ever thought about just calling this Jared and Garrett?
Jerry and Gary?
Just Jared and Garrett.
Jared and Garrett.
The first syllables.
Oh, wow.
We have
no, we have not.
Yeah.
Probably should.
I think it's time for a rebrand.
We just rebranded.
Well, we rebranded the company.
True.
We rebranded the company.
True. It's
Faith
good
and
point.
Frames with Jared and Garrett.
That's cool.
Listen,
I'd wear
I'm
that
always
t-shirt.
Jerry anyways.
Yeah, we get confused all the time. Like people call us Jerry and Gary. They
Like,
can
oh,
never
yeah.
get the duh and the
Sure.
tuh.
Or if I go to Starbucks, like my cup's going to say Jerry.
You're Jerry.
Oh, yeah.
100 times out of 100.
It's a good idea, Ryan. I like that.
I like that. It's not bad a bit. That's not
I'm gonna
bad at
put
all.
that. Where are my thoughts and doodles at?
Left hip. There you go.
There we go. Thoughts and Doodles Volume 1. That's going in there.
So you've been at this since 15. So
15 full-time, 10, like if you want to say like first trivia shows ever, yeah.
So I'm looking at the pages of history. That mathematically means that, and you can check my math because my math's not always the best, but that means you've weathered COVID, which
COVID,
might be difficult for an in-person trivia event.
Yeah.
Right? Some challenges there maybe?
Of course, yeah, especially in California where everything closed, I would say more than other places.
They got a little wild out there with COVID.
Yeah, when I moved here, people were like, certain places, like, we didn't close at all. I'm like, oh man, like certain places in California were closed for like 6 months.
Yeah.
Like you couldn't go to certain
hard.
Same thing with
breweries and stuff
Chicago.
like that.
I was in Chicago
Yeah.
during COVID.
Oh yeah, it was wild. So, and that was COVID was 2020, obviously, and so I had been doing the full-time trivia thing for about 3 years at that point,
Right.
and everything was going great, and I'm like, this is great, and then everything closed, and I was like, oh no, and like at that time, I didn't have any trivia nights anywhere else. It was all just California. So a friend of mine named Simon Time, he has a company called Simon Time Trivia in the Orlando area.
Okay, cool.
He went on Facebook Live
There you
and was
go.
just like, hey, we can't do shows, so I'm doing the show on Facebook.
Had to pivot.
He did like a 2-hour trivia show and I played along with it. And I was like, that was fun. I'm like, I could do that. I'm just sitting
there you
around. So I started doing that. And those first 9 months of COVID, I did it every single night of COVID for 9 months, 2-hour show. So I would just do like old trivia nights and write new ones and put stuff together and do themed stuff. And the first like month or two of that, everybody was like on lockdown, especially in California.
Yes.
But then people on lockdown in like California and Chicago and New York that were friends would be like, hey, you got to come watch this guy. We do this thing. You know, come play with us, play on our team.
Right.
And it was real casual and fun, but like on Facebook Live, which I had never really used at that point, we would have like 300-400 people watching sometimes.
Absolutely.
And I was like, this is crazy. And this was also before a lot of algorithm stuff had come out, and it was just kind of natural.
It's back when social media was still social.
Yeah.
Thank you, Meta. Sorry.
And then we would, I would throw like my Venmo and PayPal info in the banner at the top.
That was going to
And in those early days, I would make $400, $500, $600, $700, $800 in tips. And I was like, this is more money than I would have made if I had real shows.
Right.
And I'm like, this is like, in a weird way, I'm like, this is sort of like the future of like what this could be.
Right.
Yeah.
And so many people can play from anywhere.
Yeah.
And then eventually that kind of died down because
people
things
go
opened
back to
up
in-person.
and you go back to your routines. But I still kept it up for a while, and then that turned into sort of like a real community of like, we call them like the quarantine trivia players.
There you go.
And to this day, I still talk to a lot of those people, and I made a lot of good friends that way. And then once things opened back up, we would all meet in person, and it was like, whoa, like some people didn't know each other and things, from in-person stuff. So that was a lot of fun. But those early days of the Venmo tips and stuff like kept my family fed. I remember I was on the Ralph's website, which is a grocery store chain in California, and it was like they were looking for overnight stockers. And my first job ever in high school was
there you go,
doing carts and bags at a store called Jewel in Chicago, which is owned by Albertsons.
Okay.
And so I remember thinking like, I'm gonna have to go back to my old first job because like that was the only thing I knew I could definitely get.
Right.
And I could do it overnight and still see the kids and stuff. Right. And I was like, all right, maybe I'll do that. I was on the website.
Fixing to
and
apply.
I think the day that dude Simon Time did his live stream. So then I saw that later that day and I go, well, maybe I'll try that. So I never filled out the application, but it was pretty close,
Very cool.
And I always wonder what that would have been like. But luckily everything worked out. Right. Then like I would say 3 months into quarantine, I started getting hit up by a lot of agencies and just through my website for like, hey, we're looking for this company wants to do a virtual trivia thing. Could you do something like that? And so I had to figure out what that whole thing would be like and what to charge for that and things like that. And that really turned everything around because I started to do 3, 4, 5, 6 shows a day.
Right.
Just like an hour here, a half hour there, 15 minutes here. And
this was
whatever
for
they were looking
corporations
for.
and stuff?
Was that, for different, every company. I've done a virtual show for, I've done 1,200 virtual shows since COVID started.
Wow.
Good gosh.
So in March of 2020, I had done 0. And then like in December of 2020, I think I did 110 in just that month. And so it was like every day I was doing a ton. I think I did 8 in one day, and it was all holiday parties.
Right. Yeah.
So everyone's holiday party changed that year, and they're like, we got to figure out what to do to entertain these people virtually.
Everyone's having to pivot.
And so I would do a show for an hour for Microsoft's marketing team, and then be like, all right, see ya. And then immediately hop on another Zoom call for Activision's video game, whatever, and then just keep bouncing back and forth. And I didn't want to say no to anything because I didn't know when this would all dry up.
Absolutely.
And things still weren't totally open.
You got to harvest when the harvesting's good.
Yeah. So I really overworked myself because I kept going, it's just talking. You could talk, but then like if you talk energetically for like 8 hours a day and then have to do it again the next day, you're like, I was really just, it took me a while to kind of like get back to normal after that. And then we were moving. We were trying to buy a house in the midst of all that. So we came and looked at a house here in Johnson City in early January 21. We bought it like the next day, and then we moved 4/20/21 when my daughter was done with most of kindergarten. And then we moved here, and the rest was history. But it took me about 6 months of living here to kind of like, first of all, the move was crazy, getting the big truck across the country and everything. And then also just getting adapted to like what trivia life would be like here. And then also those corporate shows kind of dying down a little bit. You know, they were still pretty packed on the calendar in most of 21.
Right.
22 it definitely went down, and now in 23 it went down. But they still pop up because there's still companies that are totally virtual, like they don't have any physical locations anymore.
Right.
And then also there's just people that are spread across the world. Sometimes they want to do something for them. I have a show later today for a company, and it's a really specific show where they have a Jeopardy champion on.
Oh, wow.
Amy Schneider, who was the second highest winner ever after Ken Jennings.
Not to be mistaken for Amy Schumer,
50
correct?
weeks in a row or something. Millions of dollars. And so basically this company hired her through an agency to come on a Zoom call, and then they hired me to facilitate Jeopardy. So like the employees can challenge her to rounds of Jeopardy.
Very cool.
So that's a very specific show, but I'm excited about that one. That's later today. So some of those pop up, and then, you know, I'm doing a lot more in-person corporate stuff too, which I was doing before COVID as well. But like, I just went to Huntsville, Alabama in December for a show with a big like research company down there.
Okay.
I'll be in Orlando next week for sort of like this big ballroom style show where there's like 1,000 people, and they just want me to run around and do like trivia on the fly, like table to table, kind of a thing. So like sort of like man on the street, like what do you do? What do you do at the company? And then like here's a question, and if you win, here's a gift card or whatever. So every show's a little bit different these days.
Right.
At the beginning, everybody was just like, we just want like trivia, or just Family Feud, or just bingo or something. But now it's a little bit more unique, and I love getting out there. I love driving around the country and flying and getting.
Sounds like you're very human, interactive, driven.
Yeah,
That's
I
very
really
cool.
like talking. You know, that's my passion.
You mentioned it there. You're like, oh, it's just talking. I can do 1,000 of these. Well, Garrett and I have realized that.
Yeah, we talk about this.
Our cusp of like, we normally batch shoot our podcast. We let that out the other day. But like we found that like in regards to quality.
We have diminishing return after like 3 episodes.
Yeah, it's like you're like, oh, you're just sitting here talking.
Yeah.
True.
Do you guys ever do more than like 2 of these in a day?
The most we've ever done is
we've done
3 or
3.
4.
Oh wow!
But after that, like again,
we're beat.
Mentally, you're
We're
fatigued, and then there's definitely a degrading there.
I do a daily podcast. It's just Monday through Friday, and it's really short by design.
By the way, link in description below.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, check it out. Monday through Friday, there's about 1,700 episodes, and they're all under 10 minutes, most of them.
Yeah.
And it's just a round of trivia that I usually use at my live nights. So like it's 11 questions usually on a topic.
So if I want to go like get those questions pre-screened so that I have an advantage on trivia.
Yeah, exactly. And sometimes I recycle stuff for the live shows, so you never know. But yeah, it's a lot of people find it on road trips, so they're bored in the car and they just search trivia.
About that.
And then they go, whoa, and they scroll down and they just find a topic that everybody in the car likes.
I do that with my family.
NFL legends, and then they click on that or something.
Very cool.
So it's a lot of fun, but I try and record all 5 in a week in one day.
Yeah.
And that's about my limit. You know, they're like, altogether, that's only an hour of talking.
Right.
But then editing and stuff in between, it's like, that's about my limit. You know, and sometimes I'll do like 3 and then 2 the next day or something.
Right.
But yeah, I think there's a limit
threshold
on how much you can talk. Yeah,
there's a threshold.
Definitely.
There's a misconception for someone who's never done it though. Like again, you had never done all that many virtual events, right? So you're thinking the mindset is like, oh, it's just talking.
I come from a big family of teachers, and I'm like, my brothers teach every day, and they have to do 6 or 7 periods. Like if they could do it, but then you think of all the downtime in class where they might just be like letting them work.
There is a threshold. I used to talk to people for a living, and when I would come home at the end of the day, like my wife would say, "Why are you dead?" I'm like, I've used all my words. I have literally used all my words today talking to people. There is one thing that I don't want to breeze over because in my mind, I have broken your path into basically 2. I'm not going to call them devastating events, but 2 pivotal events that I can gather from your story thus far. Can you speak to social media and how that pivot occurred for you with COVID? Because we had a similar occurrence. Whenever COVID hit, we were shooting weddings at the time.
Sure.
All of our weddings ended up canceling or postponing. So we also had to make a pivot because companies had started reaching out because they realized that social media was going to be huge.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, the weddings weren't there. So
weddings weren't there. So we had to make a living as well, which we were still doing it part-time at the time because we both had full-time jobs. But I think that was a piece of our company's history that I will forever be appreciative of if that's appropriate to say that COVID could be appreciated.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we learn.
Yeah, we
Everything
learned.
offers a chance to learn something.
But how has that shaped your business and how you run things? Because you've now gone through a couple of different phases, even with social media, because you were very social media heavy with your trivia shows. Now you're kind of going back to more in person.
Yeah.
So what has that path looked like, and how do you still blend social media into that?
I think there's a hybrid.
Yeah. I'm a big fan of, and I didn't understand them when they first came out, but stories,
Yeah.
the ones that disappear.
Yeah.
I didn't ever really post this because I'm like, what's the point of spending time on something that disappears?
Right, it's gone in 24 hours.
And it took me a minute, I don't know when those came out, if that was like 2016,
That was a Snapchat
15,
thing.
14.
Yeah,
That
It started with
originated with
Snapchat.
Snapchat.
But I just remember being like, why would I waste my time on that? And then I realized how much I was looking at them.
Yeah.
And like you get these little snippets of people's lives. And so I think that's my number one thing that I post, and the thing that I like to look at the most is stories, whether it's on Facebook
Very
or,
cool.
or Instagram. I never really did Snapchat, which I know still exists, but I should be on TikTok. I'm trying to think of a unique idea for what to do. I don't want to just post, look, I'm at a trivia night. Like it has to be, I feel like TikTok has to have some kind of hook.
You could do daily trivia questions.
I thought about that too, but I still feel like it needs to be a little bit more interesting than that. So that's cooking, and I should have probably been doing that
You
years
would
ago.
blow up on TikTok, I
think
believe.
so.
Thanks.
I think you could blow up on TikTok.
Yeah,
Don't get paralysis by analysis.
Yeah,
that's a good
what I'm
point too.
sensing here.
Just
That's a good
post.
point too. Yeah,
You'll find out what TikTok likes and what they don't like.
yeah. I will say something I really got into is Etsy in the last year.
Really?
And
Really?
Again, Etsy's been around forever, and
Yes.
what I
Yeah.
do is so Etsy friendly. I don't know why it took me till 24 to
Yeah, how is
just to
trivia
implement it.
Etsy friendly?
I'm not
this is
making that connection
interesting.
here.
So if you go on
I'm
Etsy, obviously it's things people made.
Right.
And so I started just looking around, and I've bought a few like trivia games off of there. And so
Okay.
people post like PowerPoints of trivia nights.
Okay.
Hey, here's
Didn't know
a
that.
movie
Digital
trivia night.
products.
Yeah, here's a digital product. And I'm a huge fan of the set it and forget it kind of like you make something and then it's just out there, and if people want it, it's
Same.
I think that's the passive part of that.
Passive
is
income is great.
So much fun to me. In the same way that some of these trivia nights that I run, like in California, those are sort of
those are passive
I have
now.
to
You
check
got
in on
people.
them, but like if the host is good and reliable, I know that that's going to be
you have people
a
in
good
place.
turnout.
Sure.
You've expanded a little bit. You've duplicated yourself.
Yeah, and so the Etsy stuff,
Okay.
I started looking at that a lot in the last 6 months, and I'm like, in 24, I'm gonna like I had like merchandise on Etsy that I had made, like mugs and shirts and stuff,
And
right? I was
stickers.
like, yeah. And I was like, I think I'm gonna start putting some of my games, because I have like thousands and thousands of PowerPoints that I've made.
Right.
And I'm like, one, it's good for branding because it could be called Trivia with Buds, and people can edit those and do whatever they want with them, but they see it if they leave it up there every screen if they're using it at an event or something. I'm like, that's good advertising. And I love that the digital is just there forever.
Yes.
And I love that there's there's no limit. You put 999 in, as the quantity. And it's just super easy. It's 20 cents to list something on Etsy.
Didn't know that.
20 cents to put a listing up. And I think that's per year, per listing. But still, if I have 10 things up right now, that's what, $2? It's
Nice.
nothing.
Something like that. Pretty good ROI.
Yeah. So I started throwing some stuff up on there, and I was looking at other people who do the same thing, and there's not that many. There's a lot of people who have like printables, so you can get all these things you print out for like a baby shower or a wedding shower,
Like trivia cards.
Yeah, trivia cards, things like that. But there was one dominant trivia company, I guess, on there, and they started in 2020, and they have like 14,000 sales.
Dang.
Wow.
And most of their things are $5 to $15, and then they have bundles of things that are a little bit more.
Oh, that's a good price.
Pretty good amount of revenue.
It's a good price
that's
point,
like over $100,000 in just passive income
To do one thing.
once you make the PowerPoint.
Yeah, to make one
So I'm like,
post.
I should really do that. And so I've had stuff up on there for the last 3 weeks,
Mm-hmm.
and I've had something like 25 sales.
Wow.
And it's just like this morning, I had 3 sales on a Valentine's game I posted up.
Nice.
And it's got a round on rom-coms and a round on Paris and a round on just kind of lovey stuff.
And what was your price point?
$8. So
Rad.
that's
25
$24
bucks overnight.
Yeah, to just have some, and that was just today, and
do
I think
nothing.
3 people bought it yesterday too. So
So $48 in the last day.
and you could throw some dollars. I think you could throw up to $25 in marketing at your Etsy page.
Yep.
They like limit it in a weird way. I think I have it set for $5 a day right now.
I would say they do that to keep things competitive for everybody. If I were guessing.
So I have
That way, budget's not a limit for some
exactly.
creators.
Yeah. So
That's
my
good.
goal, I have 10 listings on there right now. The person who has the most on there, I think, has 120.
Yeah.
And I'm like, What if I have 150 and it's just you're getting seen more? And there's just more. They say the more listings you have, the more traffic you get as well. So it's like I'm just trying to kind of build that up. So I think by the end of this year, if I had 150 Etsy listings, because it takes me about an hour and a half to kind of like redo everything to make it look presentable and things like that.
Sure.
And then you have to make little graphics and videos that kind of advertise what it is. But I think it's going to be a slam dunk, especially once it's all done. And
that's a great model.
Hang out.
I like that.
That's a great model.
I like that a lot.
The previous industry that I was in, we had passive income opportunity, and you know, when you first start receiving those little $2 here and $5 here and $8 here, like it's not a lot at first, but like, it adds up. Passive income can get very, very large.
Once you get that reputation, just like with the service industry of these trivia shows, you just get known for it, you know, and they're like, oh, that's the guy who does that. Yeah. And so that's what I found living here in the Tri-Cities is after 3 years, people go, oh, you're the trivia guy. Yep. And like, that's what I want everyone to say. I mean, that's perfect.
You are the go-to.
And there's a lot of trivia companies. Actually, there's not that many. There's a few other trivia companies in this region that kind of dominate, and they have like hundreds of different locations a week. I have 25 and only 10 really in the Tri-Cities, the other 15 in California. And I think people hopefully are attracted or remember attracted to my business or remember me from the business because I'm a guy. Like, that's the guy. Or my name is Buds. It's like a company. And Buds also sounds like you're hanging out with your friends, you know. And beer.
It's a very good play on words.
It's a little, it just all works out. And if marijuana ever becomes legal here,
there you go, Buds.
It's a whole another connection to do shows at dispensaries and things, which I did a lot in California.
Well, so we talk about this some too, me and Jared. But when it comes to differentiators, and being the go-to, like that's our goal within the local media industry is we want to be the go-to guys. What do you feel like here locally? Because the second I'm going to say pivotal moment of your career was making 2 moves. From Chicago to California, from California to Tennessee. What gave you the ability to here in a local network that you knew? I'm going to say nobody. We'll just say that you didn't know anybody when you showed up.
We knew the Facebook group.
You knew the Facebook
to the
group.
Tri-Cities Facebook group, and we just liked everything that was posted in there. That was a big reason we moved here. Shout out to Courtney Stewart, Evans Real Estate. Courtney Stewart runs the Moving to the Tri-Cities Facebook group.
So you knew the group.
Knew the group just because like we would be like, oh, let's, when we were looking at where our house was going to be at, let's see where's the closest whatever, and we would, what's the best barber, things like that. And like every question we had was answered by that group. It's a very active group.
So what at that point in time then? So we know that you had the group and the small network at that point in time. Well, what became your differentiator? Because moving into a brand new area, you have to do something that nobody's doing, or you're not going to be the guy. So what turned you into the guy?
Yeah, I think that being a social person is like a huge plus down here. You know, and absolutely. I always tell people, I go, if you don't like talking to strangers in public, don't come to Northeast Tennessee because I remember the first week I lived here. First week I lived here, I went to a Zaxby's in Greenville. Zaxby's on the main
on the highway on AJ.
That's actually called the bypass.
Yeah, it's the bypass.
It used to bypass Greenville, but it no longer does.
Now it goes through the heart of Greenville.
I was at that Zaxby's right where you guys are at, and I went in there and I'm looking at the menu. I'd never been to a Zaxby's, and I was doing something, and I was like, oh, I'll get a chicken sandwich, and I'm looking at the menu, and a guy comes up next to me, and he goes, what are you thinking about getting? And I was like, oh, and I was like, I don't know, I've never been here before.
Golly nosy, I don't know.
This is so Tennessee.
He breaks down like every menu item in detail. He's like, so up here we got this, and he's like, I've had this last Tuesday, and he's going through his whole life.
Being from Chicago, was that like alien to you?
No, I mean, I've met people like that before, but the next part of this story is that everybody is like that down here. So it's like, if you go anywhere and you are an introverted person, they're going to make you an extrovert pretty quick.
Yeah, I hate it for you because we're gonna detail the menu for you.
And so I talked to this guy for 20 minutes before either of us ordered. Then like I'm sitting down and eating by myself, and he comes over to like check on me, and I'm like, does he own this Zaxby's? Like, is this his franchise?
He's a franchise owner.
Just a dude, just a guy, just a patron. And he was with his kids, and his kids came up. He introduced his kids, and I'm like, this is just different folk down here. And I was like all in on that.
And then next week you're in the family picture.
And at Zaxby's.
At Zaxby's, you're on the wall. From
that interaction, I went, I got to be like that guy. And so everywhere I went, that's how I tried to be. And that's how I try to come across. And I think tried to come across that way my whole life once I was comfortable, it's probably like a teenager talking to everybody.
Right.
But it really made me go, it resonated then that I'm like, I need to be like that times 10 down here.
Yeah.
And I would say that once I started doing that, I would go, okay, I like this. I like Johnson City Brewing. How can I run their trivia night? Because they were kind of running it in-house.
Right.
And they didn't really want to spend money on someone else to do it.
Right.
And they had kind of done it that way. But we're coming off of COVID, so they're like, oh, we'll try something.
Yeah, we'll give it a whirl.
But I hung out there and drank the beer and saw regulars and did a lot of that at a lot of places around here before I had any paying gigs.
Okay.
And I would go into places and I would go, do you want to maybe do a trivia night? And they go, I don't think that's going to work here. And I go, well, I have all my stuff in my trunk. I'm going to come set it up in here for free.
I love it.
And I'm just going to do it. And they're like, okay. Like a lot of places are just like, whatever, man.
You, sir, were assuming the sale. I like that.
Yeah.
Free to feed.
So I would just
Very
do
cool.
it. And then I would go home. I wouldn't even say like, so what do you think now? I would just leave. But then they would always reach out and say, hey, we had some people who liked that last week. Can you come do that again? Or what does that cost for you to do that?
Right.
And that happened, I think, at 3 places. So it's like
Beautiful.
But I had the time to do it too. I was doing a lot of the corporate stuff still, but I didn't have any steady weekly nights. And so now I pretty much have something Sunday through Thursday that I do myself. And then on some of those nights, like Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, I have like 2 or 3 other gigs that I have other local hosts run for me. So
Okay.
But I think a big part of that is investigating the climate of what are people like down here, like at the Zaxby's thing, and then kind of going out and mimicking that in a real way, not like
not in a fake
forced
way.
way.
I was going to say you became your differentiator that I can diagnose here is you just became a chameleon and amplified it.
Yeah, and then I also knew that my trivia was very different than the other trivia nights around here.
Right.
So if people were looking for something different or younger or less academic and a little more pop culture-y, that they would maybe talk about that a little bit too. And that is
Very
the compliment
cool.
I get around here. They'll go, oh man, I went to Aubrey's and played another trivia night and it was just, a dude in flip-flops in a
Who's the
horrible
17th
microphone
president?
and just kind of like mumbling stuff. And it was, super
We're bored.
academic.
Just less of an experience.
We're bored.
Yeah, I want people to like the venue. I want them
Yeah.
to buy more stuff when they're at trivia night at the venue. I want them to like the questions. I want them to like me or whoever the host is.
Right.
And I want it to be a brand that's not just a trivia night. Because sometimes, like last night, the whole place was packed at Tennessee Hills Brew Distillery, right down the street from where we're recording. There was like 70 players. And a couple walked in, and the wife or the girl was like, what's going on? He goes, oh, it's trivia night. It's always like this. And they couldn't sit
Trivia
down. They
buds.
walked out. So he was a little peeved at it, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But like,
gonna have that.
that's a good reputation to have. Trivia night is always like this.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so that's what you want people to say.
Well, that's your brand, essentially.
Yeah.
That's your brand.
Yep. Mhm.
Garrett mentioned he stated that the area is slow, and in a lot of ways we are slow. But I really think a lot of it just you mentioned education has to take place. I think people are so reserved.
We are.
And
again,
it's like,
we have to have the cha-cha slide.
I need to see. I need you to prove to me
Yeah.
that this is going to work before I'm going to stroke a check for you.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Exactly,
And so that makes sense as to why you would set up.
We have to see one person go dance first.
Yeah.
And then we all join in and dance. But
Yeah.
it takes a while. It takes
Yeah.
the cha-cha slide and
That's
one
a great
good
way of
person.
thinking about it.
Somebody's going to jump off that cliff at the lake. Hey, they made it. I'll jump now.
They
You know what I'm
didn't
saying?
die. But too, so one thing that I'm picking up on with you at the end of the day, and this goes all the way back to your comedic career, you're a performer.
Yeah.
And I can see, and now I want to come to trivia night, but I can see that these for you are like a performance. No
It
different
is.
than a comedy show where you're working the crowd, you're working the venue. You want people to like the place that they're in. You want them to like the people that they're with.
Yeah.
That is all.
It's symbiotic at that point.
Yeah, it's all symbiotic, but it's all characteristics of a great performer.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, that is what I'm looking for. And there are times where I go, ooh, the trivia was fine, but I wasn't very good.
Right.
And so,
Well, and as a performer, you're not going to have an on night every night.
or that the people, they weren't really interested in anything I said except
Right.
the questions, and they were really just looking at the screen or
Right.
whatever. So yeah, you will make those little notes for yourself.
You'll
but
have different
I-
crowds.
Yeah.
But you pick up on that.
Yeah.
And then there's places, like I said, sometimes when I get them rolling at Gypsy Circus, I walk out of there and I go, I feel like I just did a comedy show with a little bit of bingo mixed in or
Right.
whatever it was,
What is
Sometimes
your-
I'm talking so much and people are laughing. I go, B7, and I forget that we were doing bingo or whatever,
What is your biggest game? Because you mentioned a few, and one of my favorites is Family Feud. I've told you off camera, it's not my brightest and most proud moment, but I participated in the Greene County Fair Family Feud. My family did. And we lost, and I love
Family
I'm
Feud.
very ashamed of that.
Yeah.
Blot on my record.
Are there any like evidential archival pieces of that?
God, I hope not.
We need to find those.
I really
Or recreate
hope
it.
not.
We got to do a rematch. Yeah.
Boom.
Hey,
We
no,
can do your family versus your family.
But I am curious. Is there a clear winner as to like the most requested game?
Family Feud is probably the most requested corporate game I do.
Yeah.
But sometimes they'll be like, hey, we have 4,000 people. Can we do Family Feud? And I'm like, we
Nope.
can't. I'm like, it's really like 50, maybe like
Yeah.
80 and
Right.
under, for everybody gets a chance to play and
Right.
talk a little bit and you
Yeah.
switch out teams as fast as you can. Whether you're doing it virtually or in person, I would say that's kind of the cap.
Right.
But,
Okay.
I would say Family Feud's the most.
That's your crowd pleaser.
Yeah, that's the crowd pleaser, and people everyone knows that show, and
Yeah.
a lot of people watch it with their families at dinner
Right.
and things.
Yeah.
So they're familiar with that one the most.
Yeah.
We do Wheel of Fortune, but I don't have like a real wheel. It's like a
Right.
digital wheel, so it's
Okay.
like not as fun. But it's it's just Wheel of Fortune is just Hangman,
Right.
Yeah.
But I like hosting. I do like hosting the game shows, and like today I'll be doing Jeopardy.
Right. Very cool.
Those are the three ones I do the most.
Okay.
People like sometimes I do this thing called Sunday Fun Day at
Okay.
Tennessee Hills Distillery in Jonesboro, and we'll do just a mix of like whatever I feel like doing. So we'll do like a round of trivia, we'll do a round of categories, we'll
Yeah.
do a round
Very cool.
of Pictionary, and different game shows, and like we award different things to people throughout these 2 hours. So we do that like every other Sunday. It's a
Right.
lot of fun, but that's a good place. It's a good testing ground to kind of test out stuff that I might incorporate into a trivia night,
Okay.
a traditional trivia night in the future, or like a weird round that like I don't know how it'll go. So that's a good testing ground for that for sure.
You're doing
But
some
yeah.
R&D on the fly.
Yeah, exactly.
Very cool.
Yeah. And I'll straight up, I ask a lot of audiences, what'd you think of that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
This thing I'm doing for Jeopardy with Amy Schneider today, I actually ran last night a round of it at Tennessee Hills.
Okay.
And
So that was your
the
beta
audience
test.
was pretty engaged, and
That's
everyone
good.
that played was good. And one dude killed it like he was actually on Jeopardy, and
Yeah.
like,
Oh, wow.
he was just like boom, and he knew everything. And he usually plays in a team by himself. His name's Jared, and he dominated Jeopardy. Like, how did you do that? He goes, I watch Jeopardy every day. So like,
Beautiful.
But these were all real Jeopardy questions I was using from like the 90s.
Wow.
Okay.
That were sort of timeless ones evergreen ones that I used.
Very
But
cool.
he like dominated, and I'm like, this is going to be cool. But I like to test stuff out.
Yeah.
And I always ask their feedback, like on the mic, like, what did you guys think of that? And people be like, it was too slow, or like 2 questions are too hard, or whatever. But like,
need to know that,
Yeah,
though.
you
You
need
have
to
to
know
know
those
that.
things. So it's good.
Well, we talk about feedback all the time, and we ask them at the end of every episode, hey, give us some
Yeah.
feedback, good or bad. Like,
Sure.
you have to have all of those things
Right.
so that you can hone your product.
And
in.
when I do these live trivia shows, like I create all this stuff on Sunday or Monday, the 5 rounds we're going to do, and then I host it Tuesday night. So then I can go, ooh, there was a typo there, or that word was weird,
Right.
or
There
that
you go.
question, or that whole round sucked.
give yourself a buffer.
And then by Wednesday, I can change it for all my hosts in California and say,
Yep.
hey, don't do that round, switch it out for this one.
You're able to dial it in.
Yeah, and so that's Tennessee's sort of the testing ground for California in a way, in that way.
Nice.
So
Very
Nice.
cool.
yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So, like with trivia specifically, how does that format work? Is there like points? Is there a winner? Or is
Yeah.
it just like,
Yeah, no, every venue
Q&A.
usually is giving away a gift card, $25, $50 gift card to get them to come back. So like the winning team gets this gift card that they can
got you.
sometimes use that night, or more than likely just use it the next time they come
Right.
in. So that's a big selling point, is just getting them to come back. And then people really make it their routine. If they're
got
on
you.
a bowling team, they bowl every Thursday at 7
Right.
p.m.
Yep.
This is their thing. It's like
Yep.
they play trivia every Monday
Yep.
at 6:30 or whatever it is.
I got you.
And so sometimes there's really big teams, sometimes there's small teams. Sometimes when there's really big teams, people go, can you put a cap on the big teams? And then
Right.
you have to kind of go,
Yeah,
okay, we
sure.
have 6 or 8 people at the most. And that's a little bit hard. Actually, of all the places I've ever hosted in California, I have I wouldn't say it's a problem, but it happens the most here, where like, let's be a team of like 16 people. And, like,
Golly.
the thing is, though, some of them are not really playing, or
Right.
they kind of wandered in late.
Yeah, they're just kinda
Somebody
hanging
goes, that
out.
team has 16 people. And I go, that girl's like on Tinder. She's not even, you know what I mean? She's not even looking up or whatever. So like that.
Trivia and Tinder.
Yeah. Or people go out
With
to
buds.
smoke and stuff. They're really not like involved
not
in it. They
participating.
just came to meet friends.
Yeah.
T&T with buds.
And you don't want to like turn that business away
Right.
either. So you don't want to be like, you can't bring everyone to the thing, because that's the
Right.
whole idea of these
Right.
things. So
Yeah, you
you have
want
to
it to
kind of
grow.
balance that. And I really only address it when it becomes an ongoing thing. You know,
Gotcha.
like, oh, that team always has 15 people on it or something. Hey, split into 2 teams and kind of spread it out a little
Yeah.
bit. But it's the idea is that they are accumulating points to win a prize as the show goes on.
I got
And
you.
I do a little bit of raffle type action. So I'll just I have a rack in my garage of just like stuff my wife and mother-in-law buy on clearance. They'll be like, hey, they'll FaceTime me at a Walmart and be like,
Yep.
we got, a pyramid of bidets that are
Very
on
nice.
sale for
Wow.
$5
Some
from $80. And do you want us to buy these as a silly prize?
Right.
And I'm like, buy all of them.
Yeah. So the clearance aisle at Walmart is awesome.
The pallets at Walmart sometimes are so cool. Or like after Christmas clearance, I have a ton of stuff I just got. And sometimes that candy that you get at Christmas time is not Christmas branded.
Right,
and it doesn't expire till like next Christmas.
Have you gone to the tote store that's over next to Freddy's?
Yes, my family is really into tote stores and thrift stores and all that stuff.
So there's a prize opportunity.
So I always have these prizes, and then basically I will, I have like a tip jar out. I'm like, hey, if you throw $1 in my tip jar, I'll put your name on this wheel, and we'll raffle off these silly things from the trunk.
I like that. You're keeping everybody involved and
keeps everybody involved, keeps everybody kind of like just coming up to the table and stuff. And so little things like that are like sort of tactics. You're just trying to create this environment that's not there at any other time of the week.
Well, again, too, you're getting people involved and immersed, and it's more than just trivia night.
And people go, where did you get a bidet? I wanted it this trivia night.
My gosh.
They gave away a bidet at a trivia night?
That's advertising.
It just all comes back to trivia with butts.
I love it. I love that.
Yeah.
Yep. And now when I go to Tennessee Hills every week, I email 800 people. Here's the categories. Here's a sample question.
That's awesome. Yeah. I was going to ask you if you were taking advantage of email marketing, because I would imagine, well, just contact, right? Email, text, whatever it is. But if you can logistically build like, I acquired this at Tennessee Hills Distillery.
Yep.
Next time I'm going to Tennessee Hills Distillery, it makes sense to let all these people know, hey, I'm going to be at Tennessee Hills Distillery.
Exactly.
It makes complete sense.
It's great to go, like, so we started a monthly karaoke night there.
Nice.
And it's been awesome.
I love
I'm never
karaoke.
a guy that I thought would host karaoke. And
so let me ask you this. You're a host. I got to ask, karaoke, is it, I've heard through the grapevine that it's not fun when people who can sing actually participate in karaoke. Is that true? Like, is it better when people are always off key, or is it better when the person...
I think you need to have like 1 to 2 good singers, don't you?
Yeah, so I will tell you, here's my selfish take on karaoke so far. When someone's really good, I feel like I'm part of it because I'm giving them the microphone and I set up the show.
Yep.
I feel like the booker.
It's their show.
I feel like Colonel Tom Parker to Elvis.
Yeah.
Hopefully not that evil. But I'm like, people are here because I set up this show and this person's really good. Like, and like, I'm not looking for like props for that.
Right.
But it really just naturally, I'm like,
okay,
wow, like that person was so good.
Right.
And like people are going to say, oh man, we saw this person sing so well at that guy's karaoke show.
You go.
And it's a weird thing. I never in a million years, I was just like, yeah, I'll do it. You know, like they kind of talked me into doing it. And now I get a little charge out of that. I love that. And I actually love most of that we've done it 3 months and every month's been bigger than the last. We had 100 people at the last one at one point.
Nice.
And I would say 90% of everybody is really good. And if they're not good, they're entertaining.
There you
no
go.
one's bad. We haven't, and it's also 7 to 10. It's not all hours of the night, 2 a.m. drunk karaoke. It's really like, I would say more family style karaoke. You know, like it's there's not a lot of kids, but like it's people drinking, having a good time, but not this excessive 8-hour show.
Yeah, they're not ready to be taxied out yet.
Yeah. Right. I was like, I don't want to do like, and there are those around here. There's kind of like dive bar late night karaoke's, and I'm like, I don't really want to do that because I've been to those.
Yeah,
and that's why I didn't want to host it at first.
The Greenville Bowling Alley used to be one of those.
Yeah.
Hey, I used to sing at it.
Same.
Yeah, I think a monthly, like just a little dose of it at this. They have this new event space at Tennessee Hills. I'm like, this is my jam. This is great.
Very cool.
But yeah,
I did not know you offered karaoke.
Free shows ever.
I certainly love karaoke.
What I was getting at is with having that email list from the trivia, I can say, hey, we're trying this karaoke thing.
There you go.
800 people.
Got
come
a captive
check it out.
audience.
And then, a fourth of the audience might be from that list or something.
Very cool.
The lists are great.
Karaoke.
I think it's fun. If people would just like unguard themselves and participate, if they would cut loose, I believe they'd enjoy it.
Again, it takes one dancer at the cha-cha slide.
That's true.
Or with the cha-cha slide.
Oh, well, Jim just got up there, and he's not that good of a singer.
Jim got up there and sung some George Jones. I think I can do the same.
Last show, a couple weeks ago, we had 3 singers signed up, and I was one of them.
Very
and there
nice.
was it was like, we were supposed to start at 7. It was like 7:25, and there were like 15 people in the room, and most of them were like, I'm not singing, I just came to watch. Like, oh, man.
So you started the show.
Yeah. And I'm like, this is going to be interesting. By like the time I was done singing, I had like 10 more people sign up because it started. Like you said, people saw it happening, and then
it starts that chain reaction.
Wandered in, and then we went from 15 people to like 100 people. It was crazy.
Most people sing songs, at least locally. I've only ever participated in local karaoke endeavors, but like most people sing songs that are like crowd favorites.
Yeah.
Yes.
You're only going to
Yep.
sing the friends in low places.
Yeah.
The like you've got, and so like it just people are like, oh, I've got one that I want to do.
Yeah.
you know?
After 3 shows, I've learned like I can't sing at all, like a real like singing anything like with real voice. I can entertain with talking lyrics that
That's
I
kind of
know.
like
You know what I
Jimmy
mean?
Fallon type thing, right?
Yeah, like although I think sometimes he can really sing. He
No,
sings exactly
actually
Jimmy actually can. He's very talented.
But he does
Very
that wheel singing thing.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Yeah.
You with the
It's like
celebrities?
the diversity of voices
Yeah.
that man can sing with
Yeah.
is pretty impressive.
Yeah, it's
like
like Hit Me Baby One More Time in the form or in the fashion of the Beach Boys.
Yeah.
I can sing like a boy band song, like with a group, and feel fine about it because you're not like I'm not really singing those.
Dude,
words.
that's my 2 plays.
Yeah.
90s pop and 70s country.
Yeah.
That's my 2
Or
plays at
something like
karaoke.
Lit, My Own Worst Enemy.
Yeah.
That's like a good regular guy karaoke song. Like you don't really have to sing. You just kind of saying those words.
Right.
I did Amish Paradise, Weird
Very
Al,
nice.
last
Very
time I
nice.
did. And I felt good about that because I knew all the words.
Yeah.
And I didn't really have to look at the screen. And Weird Al doesn't really
Yeah, Weird
sing.
Al, he
He's
doesn't
just kind of
sing.
talking,
Yeah.
you know?
Right.
So those are like I found a little bit easier. But karaoke's a lot of fun.
I
And
enjoy
having
karaoke.
those email and text lists, man, that's a big part of the business. That started after COVID when I started using this CrowdPur software more.
Yep.
Shout out to crowdpur.com. They're great.
Do you ever give us any like collective soul shine just to get old? Yeah.
There you go. That would be good.
I'm just saying.
Throw some Creed in there. Creed's got popular
Creed,
again.
Yeah, Creed's coming back. They're going on tour again, by the way.
Yeah,
Sorry,
Creed
that
will
was a
probably play
squirrel.
Johnson City probably pretty soon.
Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah.
Or Asheville maybe.
Wowzers.
I saw
At
the Wallflowers are going to be in Asheville.
What?
Big 90s band, I guess.
Okay.
Creed needs to play the Orange Peel
Ooh.
in Asheville.
I just went to a show there for the first time. I thought it was awesome.
Yeah,
So
my first metal show was August Burns Red at the Orange Peel.
I saw Alkaline Trio there with Bo.
Very cool.
It was awesome. And
I
they were
have
my favorite
never
band in high
seen-
school, and they were from Chicago. And I was like, I wonder what this will be like. And I'd never seen them that close.
That's a great
and my
venue.
ears were ringing the next day. It was awesome.
I've
That
never-
venue's
I've
big
never been
enough,
there.
but small enough. Like it's big enough to where you're like, okay, I'm at a real venue, but it's small enough to where it's still intimate.
Yeah. Okay.
Very cool.
So karaoke. That's awesome.
Karaoke's a lot of fun, yeah.
I think that could be a big hit. I think karaoke would be. I feel like that'd be an easier barrier of entry for people, even the reserved people of the business owners here. It's like everybody knows what karaoke is.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
You know, so it's like if you.
Well, they know it brings people in.
Yeah.
So that
I've
I
heard
like
some
that.
people say that they think karaoke is sort of a last ditch effort of a venue. Like they're like,
I don't see it
I
that
guess
way.
we'll turn to karaoke. And I'm like, I don't think that's true if it's the right kind of place.
I was gonna say if you're doing it in the right venue and you have the right host, I don't know. I think that.
I
Could
mean,
be fun.
I wouldn't see it that way. I could see what you're saying though. Like
Yeah.
that could be.
I take my
perceived
shirt
that
off
way.
in almost every karaoke show.
There you go.
At some point.
Wow. Now I've got to go.
Do you really do that?
I do.
Wow.
When's the
It
next
gets-
karaoke
it's like
event?
it's like 5 drink Ryan. And,
Okay.
You truly
and I'm
turn
like-
into Scott Sapp from
I turn
Creed.
into- I'm really trying to do the Creed thing. But yeah, I
Wow.
usually or I get or I like I just
Do you
I'll get
crowd
a
surf?
little I'll get real loose.
Yeah.
And then people go, "Do you remember what you did yesterday?" And I go, "No." And they show me pictures. I'm like, oh, I guess I tore
I,
my shirt.
I
off.
sang Creed
Yeah.
shirtless.
I've done that at a lot of local auctions too, to try and get the dollars up on like charity
Nice.
auctions.
Wow.
I'm like, I'll take my shirt off right now. And then
You-
people are like, no, you won't. And then I'll do it. And it's a silly thing I do, but seriously, it like adds money to the.
You are truly a performer.
Yeah.
I'll
That's
do
awesome.
anything for charity sometimes.
That's awesome.
Will you sing Scotty Doesn't Know?
That's a great comedic song that you can sing and you don't have to really sing.
That's true.
That's a great song.
Wow.
Or Stacy's Mom.
Yeah.
That's another. Those are both like in this.
Those still come on my wife's playlist on her WAP radio. The old WAP, not the new one.
Oh, the Miley, the
No, the old
Miley,
WAP. No,
Miley Cyrus.
no, the old WAP. Hit it with the WAP, WAP.
I think
WAP.
it's well, Miley did it. She did a dance to it back in her crazy days.
That's not the new WAP.
No. So when's the next karaoke event? I've got to come to one of
It
these.
is Friday, March 8th at 7 p.m., about 2 blocks from here.
Nice.
Tennessee Hills Brew Distillery. Would love anybody to come out.
March the 8th.
And if you come out and say you heard about it on this podcast, I'll buy your first drink.
Oh wow!
Free drinks if you heard it here first.
If you heard it here first, and you end up at the karaoke
From Mr.
event,
Ryan.
Yeah.
sounds like you
let's
got a
do
free
it.
drink.
Sounds like y'all are all going to be shirtless.
Wow! What a time! What a time! So yeah, karaoke's great. I'm really excited about the prospect of redeeming myself at some point on the Family Feud stage.
Yeah.
I think you need that.
We're going
I
to
think
try
you
and
need
get
that closure.
into some bigger game show recreations locally. Like,
Yeah.
hey, come play. We can't call it Family Feud, but we'll call
Right.
it Bud's Feud or
What-
Trivia Feud or something.
what
We'll
could
do
it-
some bigger game with set pieces and buzzers and all that
Very
stuff.
cool.
probably at the new Tennessee Hills
Okay.
in Bristol, which opens by the Pinnacle sometime in 2024.
Could
They're
you
gonna
do
have
something like that?
90,000 square feet. So I've been kind of toying around with the idea of getting some kind of bigger touristy
What about the
kind of thing there.
Paramount? Have you thought about doing things at the Paramount?
That's an actual theater in Bristol.
Oh, the actual theater.
Yeah,
I
we've
have
shot some
not.
things there.
It
Jennifer that runs that place is super nice.
That feels a little too big for what I do.
Oh, okay.
But I don't know for sure. I
Yeah.
mean, maybe you could. That would be a lot of fun.
Don't cap yourself.
That's a good point.
Don't limit yourself.
What about, so here, I know at least in the good weather days, there are a lot of outdoor events.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've done a lot
Like the
of
Blue
like
Plum or anything like
yeah,
that.
Well,
I've done
even
a lot of
Fridays out here in the yard.
fests, like
Yeah.
Jonesboro's doing a Harry Potter walk around fest.
Okay.
Can you come do trivia
Very
at that?
cool.
I've done a lot of that kind of stuff. Or movies in the park. Hey, we're showing Hocus Pocus. And
Yeah.
can you do trivia and then we'll
Nice.
show the movie while it gets dark? A lot of stuff like that in Elizabethton and Jonesboro. And then I got to open for a Willie Nelson cover band in
What?
Jonesboro on the 4th of July last
That's
year.
in
That
my
was kinda
wheelhouse.
fun. So there were a lot of people in the audience, and they played smartphone trivia, and that was a good time.
Yeah.
And they gave everybody Willie Nelson bandanas, so I got to
I
wear one of
like
those, so
that.
was fun.
I like that a lot.
I like
Yeah.
that. Were
Well-
they called the ponchos and the lefties by chance? No.
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
Swing and a
No.
miss.
It was like a guy,
No. Okay.
it was a guy's name, and then like as
Willie Nelson,
or something like
in
that.
my wheelhouse.
Nice.
That's that good
Yeah.
old 70s country.
So how can our listeners find you to reach out for their next corporate event or whatever?
Yeah.
Yeah, best place to go is my website, triviawithbuds.com. It's
Okay.
BUDDS. I'm sure you guys will link it somewhere.
Link
Yep.
in description below.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Put it in there.
triviawithbuds.com. There's a contact form on every page,
Okay. Very
which
cool.
I was told by a marketing guy to do.
Yes.
It wasn't Bo, but I shared that with Bo. He goes, "That's a good idea." Like
Right.
he said, have no friction on any of your pages. If somebody sees something they like on any page of your website,
Make
make
it
sure
easy.
they can contact
Yep.
you
That's a
on
good
that
point.
page.
Very cool.
And it works because I'll get messages and it'll say about me contact form.
Yes.
And I'm like, okay, they were on my bio page, or videos of what shows look
Ours
like.
is traceable.
you know.
That's cool.
Yeah, so I really enjoy that. That's a little trick someone gave me.
Yeah. Link in description below.
Absolutely.
Yeah, triviawithbuds.com. I'm Ryan Buds on all social media.
Okay.
And near or far, hybrid or virtual or in person,
Wherever
or
you
whatever
are.
it is. I'd love to do trivia, bingo, game shows, and more for you, your friends, your family, your coworkers. And thank you guys so much for having me today.
I think for folks participating, it seems like you're going to have a good time.
Yeah, always a
Yeah.
good time.
I can imagine it being a good time.
Might see shirtless Ryan. Who knows?
You never know.
You just really don't know what's going to happen at a
dig
trivia
it.
with buds.
I
Sure
dig
it.
it. So thank you for being on, Ryan. This has been cool because this is a deep dive into the trivia world that I
Right.
knew nothing about because I'm used to the crusty old white dudes over at the table like mumbling into the mic.
Yep.
Yeah.
And you
Who
have
was the
opened my
17th
eyes.
president?
You have opened my eyes to what trivia can be, and
Yeah, I'm
I
so
appreciate you for
glad.
that.
Yeah. And for listeners that are just listening and not watching on YouTube, go watch the YouTube video because I just took my shirt off.
Wow. He didn't actually. We didn't actually have that take place.
Sure.
I mean, he could
I
if
did
he
take
wanted
my shirt
to.
off. I had another shirt on underneath.
Dang.
Double
Almost
shirting
had
it today.
Almost had it.
Jared, there are also a couple of things that our listeners can do here for Faith and Frames.
Yeah.
What are those things?
Well, first off, go tune into Ryan's podcast because that sounds like a really good fun
Yeah.
thing to do. Like I drive to Nashville a lot.
yeah. Trivia with your
That
family.
would be a lot of fun. I'm gonna dive into that.
Link in description below.
Yeah. So first, check that out. Secondarily, just leave us some feedback. Rate us, review us.
Stars and bars.
We read all of the comments,
We weed.
good ones and the bad ones.
We like them all.
Yeah, absolutely. Share it with someone who you think would like to have a trivia event hosted.
I like that. I think that's a cool thing. So here's the hard part before we go eat some lunch.
Yeah.
You want to hit us with the hard part?
We'll catch you guys in the next one. See
Ryan,
ya.
thank you so much.
Thank you guys so much. A lot of fun.
Guys, have a good one.